Hey, what is up YouTube? This is Merman Master coming at you guys from the Team Time Riders Yugioh channel with, after 1.5 years of waiting, my brand new build for Turn 1 Vennominaga OTK. That's right guys, the day is finally here and I couldn't be more happy to profile this deck for you guys. When I first built my Vennominaga deck, way back, I think it was almost 2 years ago now, I never thought about the journey that I would go on with this card and with this general archetype. This is one of my all-time favorite cards, and I've quickly fallen in love with the play style and just the deck building opportunities that Vennominaga affords me as a player and as a deck builder. Building around this card and her specific restrictions has been a fantastic experience, and I've had the opportunity to be able to talk with so many great people over the years about what Vennominaga means to them as a monster, and be able to hear of their stories about how they've used this card to win games. And that's why I'm really excited to be back here with this deck profile, guys, because I really wanted to take my time on this and to make sure that I provided you guys something that I think you'll really enjoy. And so without further ado, let's get started on the deck profile. Now, based on all of the feedback that I received, I've tested out extensively on a lot of different strategies, guys. And this deck, I wanted to prioritize bringing out a bombastically large, high attack Vennominaga using the all new reptiles supports. And for the first time ever, guys, we're using an extra deck. We're going to be link climbing into massive attack powered Vennominagas, and I can't wait to show you what's in store. So let's get started. First things first, we've got one copy of Vennominaga, and where she is joined by 2 copies of Venom, the king of poisonous snakes. Now, I have cut the copies of Venom down from 3 to 2, primarily because he is a huge brick, and you want to have the capability to get into him when you want him and not really when you don't. I increased the card count in this deck from 40 to 42 in order to facilitate more reptile plays than ever. So these 3 create the engine that functions with Vennominaga. And I'm sure if you're watching this video, guys, you already know how powerful of a card she is. Now, we're moving on to our next cards. Starting things out, brand new in this build is one copy of Endangered Tsuchinoko. If this was at any more than one, I'd be running a lot more, believe me, guys. Endangered Tsuchinoko is so good. He's a draw, he's a discard, and he's a free special summon body on board for any of your link plays, most notably into Reptilian Echidna, brand new, which was not released during the time that I had recorded the last profile. Endangered Tsuchinoko is fantastic. Also brand new in this deck is a single copy of Night Sword Serpent. When I saw this card come out in Burst of Destiny, guys, I knew I had to buy the set. Konami has spoiled us, absolutely spoiled us, with awesome reptiles over the last 1.5 years, and Night Sword Serpent is one of them. Basically, when it's sent to the graveyard, you can special summon it to the board, and but it ends up banishing itself afterward. What this means is that it's another free body on board, and it's level 4, allowing you unparalleled access to Synchro and XYZ monsters. Now, we're moving on to our next cards, and we're starting things out with the Reptiliannes. We've got, starting here, one copy of Reptilian Gardna. Now, one copy of this card is great because what you can utilize Reptilian Gardna for is its pop effect, and it has its 0 attack power. It can be a chump blocker if you need it to be, and it's really great in this deck at 1 for just providing a lot of extra advantage. The real reason it's in here, however, guys, is because you can combine it together with your Night Sword Serpent to go into, I'm sure you've probably guessed it, guys, by now, but it's Bahamut Shark in a totally awesome. I think it's one of the coolest plays that you can make in a deck like this, and I highly, highly recommend it. So, having the capability to make different plays and utilize your monsters is one of the key plays that I talk about in this deck. So that's one Reptilian Gardna. Moving on, Reptilian Vasky, also another brand new level 8 monster in this deck. The reason I love her so much is because she provides an outlet for non-targeting, non-destruction removal of your opponent's monsters. One of the reasons I run Gardna and several of the other monsters in here is to generate 0 attack monsters that can allow you to tribute for Vasky. If you discard a whole bunch of stuff and make a bunch of your opponent's monsters attack power 0, Vasky has unparalleled capability to be able to tribute over your opponent's stuff and get massive damage on board. For our next Reptilians, guys, one of my personal favorite is Reptilian Niami. Brand new out of Burst of Destiny, guys. Reptilian Niami in Hero 2 is unreal. She can discard herself during either main phase to allow you to turn a monster your opponent controls attack power to 0. The reason why this is good is not necessarily that effect, but by the fact that she can get herself out of the hand into the graveyard unilaterally and by her own effect. What does this mean, guys? That's an extra 500 for your Phenomenon and your Venominaga that you don't have to do any work for. You just get her in your hand, discard her to the graveyard, and she gets the advantage on her own. Combine her together with these guys, and you're cooking with fire. We've got 1 copy of Reptilian Lamia and 2 copies of Reptilian Coatl. Now, I'm going to start talking first about Coatl, and then I'm going to discuss how Coatl plays into Lamia. Coatl, starting off, is, I think, the single best Reptilian main deck monster that has ever been printed. This card is unbelievable, guys. And, you know, if I had the space in here, I'd definitely bump her up to 3, if anything. So I'll explain her effects in detail so you kind of understand why I think she's so great. First and foremost, she has the ability to special summon herself to the field when you control a dark reptile. Look at Lamia. Lamia is a dark reptile that also allows you to special summon her by taking damage and putting an opponent's attack power monster to 0. But when you have her with Coatl, you can gain access to Lamia's other effect, which is something that was never really available for Reptilian players in the past. Her other effect is that when she's utilized in a Synchro summon, you send her to the graveyard with a card like Coatl, and to special summon your one and only Reptilian Hydra. Her then graveyard effect will trigger to Hydra's main effect, turn 2 monsters your opponent's attack controls to 0, and then Hydra will pop them all, and you get to draw cards equal to the number of cards you popped. But you may be asking yourself, why would I be able to summon Hydra using Reptilian Lamia and Reptilian Coatl, as both are tuner monsters? Well, guys, the Reptilian Coatl's second special ability is her capability to treat herself as a non-tuner, which is absolutely unbelievable, guys. It is one of the coolest plays that you can do in this deck because you have the flexibility to use your Coatl as a level 4 monster with 0 restrictions to go into a Link monster, an XYZ monster, or a Synchro monster. There's other reptiles I run in here that have serious restrictions like that. But the amount of flexibility that Coatl provides you alongside your Lamia and your other Reptilians is absolutely unparalleled. So that's going to do it for our Reptilian engine. And now, guys, as you've probably guessed it, we're moving on to our next engine. It's going to be Ogdoadics. So one thing that I'd like to mention, I guess, first about Ogdoadics is this is another archetype that came out while I was in school. And I tested extensively with the deck and came to the following conclusion. Ogdoadics as an archetype themselves are very good at generating the advantage in the same way that Spirals were back in the day. If you guys remember Spirals back before Link format, they were able to generate a lot of advantage, you know, get a whole bunch of stuff to their grave and deck and whatever using Quick Fix and Master Plan, but they never had really any kind of thing to do with that advantage. Ogdoadics are very much the same way, very good at loading your graveyard, very good at cycling through their monsters, but they could never really do anything to do with that advantage. But luckily for that, guess what, guys? I don't need them to do anything with that advantage because Venominaga is the card, it's the spear that Ogdoadics helped to create. And I'll show you what I mean very soon. We're first starting things out with our Nunu, the Ogdoadic Remnant. Nunu is probably the best Ogdoadic in this entire deck. You can discard it to the graveyard to send a dark reptile from your deck to your graveyard, which means you have a searchable way to grab Phenomenon straight to your graveyard. with Nunu discarding itself for its effect. For instance, you have Nunu, you have a Niami, and you can get Vennominaga to the grave. That's instantly 3 reptiles in your graveyard, and you haven't even activated a Snake Rain yet. So it's an unbelievable card. Its second ability activates when you have a Reptilianne, when you have a either no monsters on your side of the field, or you control at least one Ogdoadic monster. You can special summon your Nunu from the graveyard onto the field. This is great too. This is just a piece of free advantage that you can use for an XYZ or a synchro play. And granted, if it's banished from your grave, if it's special summoned this way and it's sent to the graveyard, you can banish it. But if you XYZ with this monster, you can just use your Nunu again the next turn. So this is just, I think, the key linchpin to our Ogdoadic strategy here in this deck. The next Ogdoadic card we've got in here is Yugioh, and we're running it at 2. Yugioh is the opposite to Nunu, because Yugioh is basically in here as your one of your other level 4s and has the opposite effect. You discard this monster as a dark, you can get a light reptile to your graveyard. You're usually grabbing your Nunu straight to the graveyard. And thanks to the fact that it can activate both of its effects in a single turn, you discard it to the graveyard and special summon it to the field right away. But if you combine it together with your Yugioh, you can make XYZs or link plays very, very easily. But Yugioh's real great effect in here is its capability to allow you to search your Ogdoadic Water Lily, which effectively, guys, makes Foolish Burial in this deck searchable. It's so fantastic for that capability, and it means that you don't have to run your Peaceful Burial alongside Foolish Burial goods in order to get your Phenomenons to grave. You have so many different options between your Nunu, your Yugioh, and Tsuchinoko and other things to get Phenomenon to grave that you don't even need to worry about that. But just when you guys thought the deck couldn't get more consistent, here we have the next 2 Ogdoadics. It is 1 copy of Flogos and 1 copy of Zoha. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I think Zoha is better served for this deck than Flogos is, but I have Flogos in here because he is an extra light target that you can use to grab with Remnant. And the reason why I like these guys is not necessarily because of their main effects. Flogos and Zoha both have effects when they're either special summoned or sent to the graveyard from the field, but their key capability is the capability to, by discarding a reptile monster, they can add themselves back to the hand. So if you send them with Water Lily, you send with either of the 2 remnants, or you send with Snake Rain, you can grab either of these 2 guys back to the grave by ditching a reptile from your hand. Guess what, guys? One of the biggest problems in reptiles was drawing into a whole bunch of Phenomenons. What were you going to do with them? How were you going to get them from your hand to their graveyard where they'd be most useful? Well, guess what? Flogos and Zoha solve that problem. Their other special abilities, actually, guys, are just gravy. You can utilize Zoha's special ability when it's sent to the graveyard or special summon to grab an Ogdoadic or any reptile you want from your graveyard and then send a card from your hand to your graveyard. So it's so great for grabbing Ogdoadics or sending other reptiles and really cycling through your deck. As I mentioned, guys, Ogdoadics love to do a lot of deck cycling, but they don't have anything to do with that advantage. Guess what? Guess who needed the consistency? Vennominaga needed the consistency, and now she has it. So those are those 2. The last Ogdoadic we've gotten here, guys, is 1 copy of Allure. Now, Allure is the single card that helped out in one of the biggest problems, which was getting your monsters banished. Allure, when it comes to the field, you can do so by tributing any monster, not just a reptile. You can tribute any monster, which is great because if you go in for an XYZ monster, you usually have a monster with at least 1 material. Tribute that monster for Allure, you get both of those materials into the grave. That's 1,000 extra attack for your Phenomenon. That's 500 extra attack because Allure then comes to the field. But Allure's real special ability is its ability to grab you in exchange for your opponent adding a card from their graveyard back to the hand. You can take 2 banished reptiles and put them back in your graveyard. You've got a banished copy of your Nightsword Serpent or your Nunu. Send them back to the graveyard. And Allure is great as another level 8 option that you can use for a variety of different plays. That's going to do it for our reptiles, guys. But now, I have the last card to show you as the monsters in this deck, because this is where the deck now lives, guys, is in the monsters. The spells and the traps are very much just your support cards, but the monsters is where it's at. And the card I'm about to show you is the tech card that opens this up. So I don't remember if I told you guys way back in the day when I discovered Card of Demise. Card of Demise was the single card that opened up the Vennominaga options for me. And I'm telling you, this card is, the card I'm about to show you, this last monster is on the exact same level. It is that freaking good for this deck. And that card is 2 copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Now, I'm sure you probably have never considered this card in any kind of Venom, Vennominaga, reptile deck of any way, shape, or form. It's a level 10 rock monster, but I'm here to tell you guys that this is the single card that has unlocked my passion for this deck once more. I'll explain. So, as one of the most powerful cards in this entire deck, Lord of the Heavenly Prison is here for a single reason. You can reveal this card in your hand and completely protect your back row. One of the hugest problems this deck has ever had is that in order to summon Vennominaga, your back row has to be triggered in a very specific order. You need to have, you need to send something to the grave. You need a revive, you need a special, and then you need to trigger your Rise of the Snake Deity so it doesn't miss timing. But guess what? Lots of stuff stops it. You have your, you have like Harpy's Feather Duster, you have Lightning Storm, all sorts of stuff puts an end to your back row before it's time to trigger your stuff. Lord of the Heavenly Prison locks down and protects it, but it's got other special abilities as well. You see, when you trigger a back row, except on the turn that you reveal this card, while it's revealed, if you trigger a back row or your opponent triggers a set back row as well, you can special summon this card from your hand to the field, and then it will search you. Guys, it will search you any spell or trap from your deck, which means you can grab Snake Rain straight from your deck right to the field and instantly load up your graveyard with reptiles that you can then use to make your plays. Not only that, guys, it's a level 10 monster alongside Reptiliannes, which you can obviously probably see where this deck is going with that, and is a dark monster to banish off of your Allure of Darkness. So fantastic, fantastic card, guys. I can't speak highly enough about this, and it just opens up so many plays in this deck, it's not even funny. Like, this card is the single thing that unlocks your Vennominaga deck. So that's going to do it for our monsters, and we're now going to move into our spell and traps. I'm hoping to probably take a lot shorter on these, considering that the monsters is really what changed in the deck the most. Now moving on to our spells and traps, guys. We've still got 3 Snake Rains in here. We're running more reptiles than ever. And so Snake Rain is such an important card into making sure that you can ditch every reptile you need to your graveyard. Lots of cards trigger in your graveyard. You've got lots of Synchro, XYZ, and Link options that can be sent to the graveyard by Snake Rain. Running this at any less than 3 is not a good idea. The next cards we've got in here are 2 copies of Allure of Darkness. And now I'm going to tell you guys, guess what? No Pot of Extravagance. You might be thinking that that is absolutely crazy, but guess what, guys? I think that the true strength of this deck is not necessarily in running a whole bunch of reptiles and then getting them like that. But you know what you can do in this deck, guys? You can link climb. You can link climb and load your graveyard with reptiles that way. Rather than hoping to draw into pieces that you need, you can draw this... you can draw freely, and if you draw into more than 1 Allure of Darkness, unlike with Pot of Extravagance, you can keep drawing off the top of your deck. So this just provides you so much more access than Allure of Darkness does in this deck, and the fact that most of your reptiles and even your Lord of the Heavenly Prison are dark, you can ditch them to the banish zone as, not even too much of a cost of doing business, and then just get them back to your graveyard with your Allure, your Ogdoadic Boundless Allure. So Allure of Darkness just provides that much more access to drawable cards than Pot of Extravagance does. And one more great effect is that if you draw into a bunch of light reptiles, for instance, or your water reptiles, and you don't draw into some dark reptiles, guess what? At the end phase, it mimics Card of Demise's end phase effect, which I told you I really love. Allows you to ditch the stuff to the graveyard and load your graveyard up more to increase the attack power of your Vennominaga. So that's Allure of Darkness in here. Of course, you guys can still run pot of extravagance if you want, guys, but I've got a super toolboxy extra deck that I'd love to show you, and by not banishing all your stuff and not having to run 3s in your extra deck, you have so many more options of cards that you can use to slow down and stop your opponent until you can assemble the pieces necessary for Vennominaga. And guess what? Combined together, you got a whole field full of negates combined together with Lord of the Heavenly Prison, guys. They ain't doing anything until Vennominaga comes to board. Now, 2 copies of Ogdoadic Water Lily, strictly better than Foolish Burial. Ditch 1 reptile from your deck to your graveyard, and then if you got at least 5 in there, you can special summon a reptile, any reptile that exists in your graveyard, to the field. So just like how your you have the ability to utilize Grave and Revive effects, this is a 2-for-1 effect here that allows you to really get your Vennominaga plays off. Last card in here is 1 copy of Monster Reborn. Pretty self-explanatory. That's going to close off our deck here. You have so many options for ditching that we don't even need to run the 1 of Foolish Burial. Now, moving on to our trap cards, guys. As you well know, we're keeping the number at 2 Rise of the Snake Deity in here for one particular reason and one reason only. This deck is running mostly the same trap lineup because now you have a way to protect them. So we've got the 3 copies of Trap Trick, which, and one other thing that I'll note, guys, is we've got Trap Trick in here, but we don't have Lilith, Lady of Lament, like we did last time. You've got so much stuff jockeying for your normal summon in this deck that Lilith just became a card that I was not willing to run anymore. It just was too slow for the new version of this deck, and so I cut Lilith back. But we've got 3 Trap Trick in here. Then we've got, of course, guys, can't have a deck like this without the 2 copies of Back to the Front as a way to revive, 2 copies of Torrential Tribute as a way to destroy, as well as 2 copies of Offering to the Snake Deity for the same thing. Combine these guys together with Rise, and you've got special abilities on that front. And finally, we've got Limit Reverse to close out our traps. That's going to do it for our trap cards, guys. And pretty similar. I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know? Like, and I think that trap lineup is one of the best things that I created with this deck, so I'm going to hold on to it. Now, guys, we're moving on to the extra deck, and I'm about to show you some cool stuff in here. And we're starting first out with Reptilian Echidna. This is the best extra deck monster in this extra deck, guys. Reptilian Echidna is a powerful link. It comes to the field instantly and permanently, puts an opponent's monster's attack power to 0, and then once per turn you can activate its effect to search reptiles up to the number of cards that your opponent controls that have attack powers of 0s. So that is really great to dig through your deck for pieces that you need. And it's not just Reptilians it searches, it's other things too. But the real benefit of this card is its ability that you can't just link summon it once. You run 3 in here because you can cycle through these and keep linking away with them in order to get like more and more stuff on the field that you need. It's just a fantastic card that provides a ton of support to all sorts of different strategies you're running in this deck. And most importantly, because you can keep linking through them, you can load up your graveyard with 3 Echidnas first turn and instantly have a whole bunch of extra reptiles. Combined together with Cosmic Slicer 0, which you can upload into, and you can actually run small alien engines. I was actually running an alien stealth burster in here and am attempting to side the card as well because it ditches to the graveyard and can combine together with 0 to negate opponent's monsters on board. The real reason you use 0, though, is just an extra reptile to help you create more beneficial plays on that front. So that's going to do it for our link monsters. We're now moving into our Synchros. We have 3 copies of Reptilian Hydra. I have 3 in here simply because, you know, I like Reptilian Hydra. However, you technically really only need 1. You're not resolving more than 1 over the course of a duel. Very rarely are you doing so. But they're a great option for extra reptile attack power and give you some more capabilities to do stuff. Gladly replace them with some Synchro tuners or something like that, and you'll be cooking with fire. I already explained Reptilian Hydra in depth. The next card we've got in here is brand new Reptilian Melusine. You can run this at 1, as you usually will only go into 1. However, I might recommend like bumping down the Hydra number to 1 and the Melusine number to 2. You utilize this card by utilizing your Reptilian Gorgon, or whichever, the level 4 I'm sorry guys, Reptilian Coatl with any other level 4 reptile in this deck, of which there are several, and you can basically special summon her to the board. So she makes a really great option, because when you summon her using just reptiles, guys, guess what? She is indestructible by battle and card effects, and once per chain, she can turn monsters your opponent controls attack powers to 0. Great for Echidna plays, great for Hydra plays, great for any, like, just running over your opponent's crap in general. And she's got staying power. I couldn't have asked for a better synchro. You know, the only better thing that she could have done was negate, but I mean, then that would be like an unbelievably broken card, and she's already almost exactly what we need for this deck, and is one of the main pieces that you use to stall until you can assemble your pieces for Vennominaga. Next cards we've got in here are our XYZs. It's 3 copies of King of the Feral Imps. Pretty self-explanatory. You utilize King of the Feral Imps to search reptile from your deck to your hand, and then we actually have this guy here. It's a single copy of Gallant Granite. Now, Gallant Granite is in here for one simple reason, guys. You can basically use him, detach a material, and add your Lord of the Heavenly Prison from your deck to your hand. So Lord of the Heavenly Prison is not only just in here at 2, because you know, that's a good number to have him in here, but he's also searchable. You can grab him out of the deck with a simple 2 level 4 monster play. As I mentioned previously, you also have access to Bahamut Shark and Totally Awesome. While this is a pretty rare play, nevertheless, it creates a great first turn board, because if you can get into the Gardna, you play like 1 or 2 Gardna or something like that, you can utilize Gardna with Bahamut Shark and Totally Awesome for extra added benefits. The final cards we have in this deck to showcase to you guys, 1 copy of Ravenous Crocodragon Arcthes. This is a level 10 monster. However, I would recommend, if you want to run this competitively at local, switch this out for a Baron de Fleur. You have a lot of level 8 monsters in this deck, and you have access to level 2 tuner in the form of Lamia. So you can very easily go into a generic level 10 synchro monster. And also, because you have multiple level 8s in this deck, guys, you can actually run a number of level 8 XYZ monsters. So if you want to run a, you know, pretty much any of the number monsters or any old XYZ monsters, just toss them in here, guys, and test them out, see what works. The final other card we have in here is the Link Monster Crystron Halqifibrax. Great card that you can place into this deck for extra added benefits, but Halqifibrax is just basically in here because you utilize him to, you know, to grab your tuners and stuff out of your deck, and you know, he makes some really great plays with that. You can grab your Lamia out of your deck and then normal summon another reptile, go straight into a Hydra. Pretty great. Throw in a Synchro Tuner monster, and you're golden, guys, pretty much. And you've got more and more plays that you can make. So, as I mentioned, guys, you know, your ability to Synchro and Link Climb in here will load reptiles into your deck by itself. So you don't really need to utilize any other plays in order to get them to your graveyard. Just utilize your Crystron Halqifibrax and your Reptilian Echidnas and link away all your reptiles, so you just load your grave with lots of extra stuff and can generate more advantage for like an 85 to 9,000 attack power Vennominaga, which is awesome. The last card we've got in this deck, guys, is a single copy of Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max, my personal all-time favorite XYZ. Shout outs to Dark Magic Ian for grabbing me, trading me one of his Lost Ark copies, guys. Gustav Max is in here because you can combine him together with utilizing your King of the Sky Prison and your Vennominaga, who are both level 10. If you've got a 9,000 attack Vennominaga, 3k attack King of the Sky Prison, you can swing in for a boatload of damage and then utilize Gustav Max to seal the deal. That is going to do it for our extra deck here, and it's also going to do it for our main deck as well. 42 card main deck, and I think this is like 15 or 16 cards, but you can feel free to sub out things that you wish. But guys, that's it for the deck profile. Thank you so much for watching it. I really hope you enjoyed it and that you enjoyed playing with it. Feel free to put the video on like 1.5 to 2 speed if you don't want to watch as much as this. But once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed it. This has been the Mermail Master with the Team Time Riders YouTube channel, and I'm signing out. Catch you guys next time. Peace.